The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with his saliva and smeared the clay on his eyes and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said it is, but others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is Jesus?" He said, "I don't know." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on a Sabbath. So the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was a division among them. So they said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes?" He said, "Jesus is a prophet." Now the Jews did not believe that he had been born blind and gained his sight until they summoned the parents of the one who had gained his sight. They asked him, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He can speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged Jesus as the Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, "He is of age, question him." So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know that this Jesus is a sinner." He replied, "If he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind and now I see." So they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" They ridiculed him and said, "You are that man's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from." The man answered and said to them, "This is what is so amazing, that you do not know where he is from. Yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if one is devout and does his will, God listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything." They answered and said to him, "You were born totally in sin, and you are trying to teach us." Then they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered him and said, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." He said, "I do believe, Lord," and he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and those who do see might become blind." Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not also blind, are we?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, we see, so your sin remains. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It's hard for us to even imagine the experience of the man born blind suddenly being able to see. When he was born blind, he had never seen. Must have been an unbelievable shock to him. Jesus spat on the ground, made clay, anointed his eyes, told him to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. He washed off the clay and bang, he could see. It must have been an explosion of light and color. He must have looked everywhere he looked and exclaimed, wow. What color is that? That's red? Blue? Green? Wow. Look how big a tree is. I only knew him to be this big. That's my mother's voice. So that's what she looks like. He may have gotten dizzy, spinning around, looking at everything. May have had to close his eyes because just the stream of sights was too much. Then he had his encounter with the Pharisees, and that probably made his head spin even more. After this, Jesus finds him and asks, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" Jesus was offering him the sight of faith in addition to his physical sight. Now, he could have said, I'm just getting used to seeing right now. I think that's enough for now. Maybe later I'll be open to some more. But he continued to be open to seeing in yet another new way. He first called Jesus a man, and then a prophet, and then Lord. He received the sight of faith. That was the trouble with the Pharisees. They got to the point where they had seen enough. They saw the law, and that's all they needed to see. The law told them Jesus was a sinner. The law told them the man born blind was born a sinner. That's all they knew, and that's all they wanted to know. That's where their sight stopped. They refused to see Jesus as being from God. They would not go beyond the law. That's it. That's all they wanted to see. And their sin was in refusing, in limiting their sight. We were washed in baptism. We were given the light of the Lord. But to see by that light, we have to open our eyes and our minds. We have to be open to seeing the presence of God in our midst. We have to be willing to follow God's way and make his presence known. Then we will not just be in the light of the Lord, but we will be light in the Lord, as St. Paul said to the Ephesians. We will be children of the light, and we will produce goodness and righteousness and truth.